So they're running this very snowbally, fast-paced kind of lineup. And again, we saw this during the group stages, and it was quite scary to try and fight into, especially when you're playing a farming POS 1 like a Terrorblade, who does rely on being able to just go into the jungle and disappear for 20 minutes. You're not going to have that mid-tier 1 tower lasting for long against the Leshrac. It's going to be very aggressive with the draft of GXR. And hell, you've even got a DK there with the Dragon form. It's going to be even easier to take care of these tier 1s. However, tier 1, they're going to switch over to the Storm Spirit now for Carl. It looks a bit greedy though. If we're completely honest, it could be a little bit greedy here in this draft going up against what GXR has.
Yeah, it's definitely greedy. I think the key thing for T1 is that GXR doesn't have the best hold for its Storm Spirit. They don't have Hex, they don't have Nyx. Snowball's there, kind of, not really instantaneous depending on your range. Disruption's there, which is great, but you're going to need a follow-up stun. I think the main emphasis on GXR to hold that Storm is on that DK. DK Blink plus Dragon Tail is probably your best bet, and then you can chain up the Snowball, and follow up from there, try to get the burst damage off, line up the Leshrac stun. That could be the factor here for T1 in giving Carl this highly mobile hero. The supports just don't punish it. We'll have to see if he can really dance around here, as I think GXR, despite that shortcoming, still has ways of handling the Storm well enough. And as you mentioned, the greed from T1 could be punished. The pace from GXR, it's just really quick. Like the Leshrac melting the mid-tier 1, melting, say, the bot tier 1 as well, starting to lock in the jungle a little bit more, can make it fairly awkward for T1 to split that farm up between Savage and Carl. And you don't want that Storm lagging behind. We tend to see it before where the Storm takes early farm priority for, say, a fast Orchid or the fast Kaya. And that still has to come out here for Carl. He will have to get that early prioritization, and Savage might have to fend off for himself for a bit.
It does seem like T1 though, right now, like with these last 2 banouts, they do get rid of 2 carries here. So they seem to believe that In Your Dream is probably going to go for something else in that carry role, rather than that POS 1 Leshrac we saw the other day. I'm very curious to see if that's going to be the case here. We'll see. I mean, T1, they've got to have to make their first pickup first, and it is going to be for Cuckoo here in the off lane. Curious to see what Cuckoo goes for himself, and he is going to go into something very safe like the Timber. Fair enough.
Yeah, you've got some pretty good heroes to rip up here on the Timb. You've got somewhat of the same issue in locking down the Timbersaw. It's a little bit easier because of the delay on chains, so you can still kind of line up your stuns with a Snowball and the Split Urt if you're quick enough. But you still have that mobility to run around a map. It's great to follow up on your Storm's initiation. A great way of getting space out early, as well as they definitely need that. Cuckoo will probably need a fast Hood of Defiance here, considering all the magic damage coming out. But as long as he holds out on the early part of that lane, maybe wait by level 3, level 4, it starts to feel comfy. You get that nice Timbersaw Lion lane potentially coming out as well. The Earth Spike into the Chain and Whirling Death can make short work of a lot of safe lane heroes, even at Leshrac if he's caught off guard. So that does give T1 a nice strong dual lane to play with from GXR. Still have to see how they close out this flex. Like we're still assuming In Your Dream safe lane Lesh. They could just pick something else for In Your Dream here. Go with a mid Leshrac instead. Lesh versus Storm. Not too awkward for Leshrac to play with, but Storm also doesn't feel like he gets completely shut out from lane. Just has to watch when that split Earth is used. But can go either way, and I think GXR can kind of hold that flex. They go with the TA, so it looks like we will get the Alacrity TA, the In Your Dream Lesh on safe lane, and they can still swap that around, and they will go that way. So they've got a nice matchup on mid. Again, going back to the point of TA versus ranged heroes, it's a bit easier to line the side blades up against ranged heroes because of how wider the arc is the further they are from you. So
yeah,
shouldn't be too bad. You don't have the best ways of bursting through refractions as levels build up, and Alacrity should hold that lane steady. They've got a good backup win condition, right? Like Leshrac 1, if it goes too late, it doesn't feel like it's impactful, but you have your actual pause 1 in terms of farm priority in the TA.
Yeah.
So you can kind of build up on Alacrity instead, and if the game goes late, just count on him to carry through.
I mean, there's not really any counters towards the TA either, this game. Like, there's nothing to burn through the refraction charges early. You can disable him up with the Lion, and you have got the Oracle as well, but it does seem like GXR did come out with quite a strong draft here. I'll ask you officially, John, who do you think has the stronger draft going into this game number 2?
I'd go with GXR in this draft. I think they've got a really fast place to play with. They've got the Leshrac DK for early push. They can buy a ton of space out for Alacrity's TA. A T1, a Storm Spirit's pacing is almost as slow as a TA, maybe slightly quicker with an Orchid or a Kaya enabling some early rotations, but it's the fact that the Storm and TB have to share that farm.
Right.
Like there's a lot that has to happen on the map for T1. Their coordination has to be a lot more on point as well. We saw those mistakes coming out from T1 in the last game where the curse was coming through, but was with the Laguna, with the Yules, the combinations weren't landing. They need to execute cleanly here up against this team of GXR because GXR has been really on point. They have a lot of counterplays to your initiation with Disruption save, with Snowball save. They can break up the fights really well, and that is a bit of a worry for T1 going into this draft.
Fair enough, John. We'll move into it. Game number 2, of course, this is a best of 2 series, so no real outright winner unless you do get the 2-0 victory. T1 looking to tie things up to try and get their group stage off to an average kind of start. And of course, GXR, they'd love to get a 2-0 victory here up against T1. I mean, I think every team in the loop at Pro Series 7, they're definitely going to be aiming at T1, right? With the recent success this team has had internationally, you want to be the team that beat them, if you can be. And I'm sure GXR, they really want that 2-0 here to really nail in a point.
Yeah, and I think it goes further than that. Again, it's that history behind these rosters. A lot of the players on GXR used to be T1 players in their early days. And, you know, they're all veterans of the scene. And T1 is as well. They kind of just want to show up. It's more than just a point. It's a matter of pride there as well, Mike.
Absolutely. Big smoke up here from GXR. They're going to try and loop right to the back line of that mid lane, but I don't see it leading to much. It's T1. They're sitting back. Carl is going to have a quick disconnection. Cuckoo apparently talking it in your dream now. Just one of the things I really missed about the Pro Series, right? Like the fact that these players just, there you go. Cuckoo's like, wait a minute, 3 times DD runes. We talked about it, Cuckoo. You know why. Look to 23 Savage. He'll tell you why.
Oh, Savage. It's all his fault now.
It's all his
the
fault.
pause one. More famous. Why not
oh, whoops. Forgot the in-game.
You.
Mic. Better turn that on.
Oh, same as well. Oops. There we are. Now, anyone watching the game must be so shocked at the silence. Still, smoke up still. Wrap around. No one's on bot. They plant the deep ward, mid ward as well. Let's see if they fully commit. Don't really want to cross that line as it gives information, but JoeCam shows up.
He does show up, but it's not going to mean much. They'll know there's an observer ward around, though, and it should be pretty obvious that it's on the left side of the lane now, because they were on the right side, and nobody was hanging around. T1. Looks like they seem to believe there's a ward on this cliff here, but that is not the case. Now, we'll see if Whitemon does go for the sentry on that cliff. He's going to go for the other side, it looks like. No, in fact, he's just blocking the small cap, just to be annoying towards GXR.
Yeah, it's really important to cut off that early farm for TA. Alacrity doesn't have a sentry on hand, is going to have to go for a D ward down the line. Mid lane matchup, of course, is Alacrity's TA versus Carl's Storm. And it's a little bit better for the TA in early levels, as long as you don't get hit by the static remnant. You play with the side blades, you line up your shots with that wider arc. You can kind of out-harass Carl. Once Carl has the level in overload, he can trade hits. But at that point, you're probably going to have the refraction up and you can block off those hits just fine. So Alacrity, as long as he works this lane well, shouldn't be lagging too far behind. At the same time, the Storm should also have some opportunities to clear out the creep wave anyway.
2 Radiant Couriers going down. I believe it was Cuckoo and Whitemon that lost their Couriers already. So a nice little bit of a gold influx here from GXR. We'll have a look at the bot lane while we have a chance. JoeCam is going to be there along with Mizu on that DK. Of course, Whitemon going to be on the Oracle, and you will have 23 Savage once again on the TB. It looks like 23 Savage, he doesn't really want to lane against the DK and the Tusk. It is naturally rather dangerous, so he's going to pull the wave over back behind his tier 1 tower. And this way he can just farm freely without really any contest.
Yep. He's just kind of left alone. JoeCam's around to try to get that contested for him, but it's a level 1 Tusk with just shards. Don't really want to tempt fate against a Terrorblade. Savage did go for the early Reflection this time, but even that spell is fairly annoying for a support to deal with, as you just get run down, get slowed down, opens up chase opportunities from T1. And this lane should hold steady. I think you're still happy on GXR's end. The fact that Savage is forced to play this way by pulling the wave gives you an opportunity to pull that wave back, and Mizu just gets the solo EXP he wants anyway. So you hit the spikes on the DK. Breed Fire is leveled, not stun, although.
Yeah, Zephyr, top lane. He's going to be able to secure a first blood here onto Paulison. Nice little pick up there, and that was a solo pick off from Zephyr. Meanwhile, in your dream, he's doing pretty well in terms of CS, but this lane will naturally just be getting much harder as time goes on. It's like Paulison's going to come back in, make sure that he does remain safe. And for now, they aren't really able to pressure the Leshrac too much. But again, as the levels go up, should become a little bit more dangerous though. As I say that, Cuckoo, he's going to be the one to get caught by that Split Earth. The Shadow Poison's starting to stack up, but it's only going to be level 1 Shadow Poison, and only 3 stacks of it. Chongmi and Cuckoo is more than happy to just back off safely.
Yeah, and Cuckoo already has the full magic wand. So every time you start spamming those spells on Paulson, if you don't get that kill, Cuckoo's just going to have a nice source of burst healing on hand. It's the Lion Timbersaw lane, like Earth Spike into the chains, is already fairly strong as harassment. Zephyr doesn't really want to do anything anyway, like he just wants to keep trying to get these pulls, play tag with Paulson. As long as the mana pool of the Shadow Demon's expended on the Lion, you don't really care. It's a lot of space out for your Timbersaw to get that initial farm, to rush that early Hood of Defiance if you want it, and you just make it a lot harder for In Your Dream to find his safe farm.
That you do. In Your Dream, he's going to take a bit of harass there, but he's going to pull that creep wave away, back into the small camp, and just set up the lane somewhere else. Pretty much the exact same thing 23 Savage was just doing. Looking back at that mid lane, Carl, he is on top of the CS board, but well, he's running back to the fountain, so now Alacrity will be able to take over. But the mid lane has been a fairly even matchup between the two. In fact, on the side, Joe Cam apparently going to give his life away to Carl, and well, actually Zephyr takes it. There you go, Carl. He pings him straight away like, dude, what the hell? That was my kill.
Sometimes you have to fight over it still. That's a nice pickup for Carl to at least be in the area of. A little bit more EXP to catch up. Alacrity is leading slightly, so his level 6 spike is just slightly sooner. And Carl's going to have to watch for the trap slow with no way to zip around. Get slowed down for too long, just get chipped away.
I love the fact that the Sideblades just keep working on denies. Like, it's always been like that, but it's just so busted. You can't turn around for CS underneath your own tier 1, because Alacrity will just keep hitting you with Sideblades the whole time.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You gotta love that PA interaction. As, again, level 6 being up earlier for Alacrity is gonna help out. They do also get stacks off. Not massive on GXR's end, but there are no blocks here from T1. Same thing goes for T1 though. They've got bigger stacks in their own triangle. They can eventually look to build that up for Carl to clear out, or Savage if he needs it, and you do have your sources of flash farm for both sides, so rather even start, rather even conditions on the map so far. Just waiting for a little bit more to fly in here.
Top lane, they do catch out Cuckoo. Split Earth is going to connect. Diabolic Edict not really going to do that much damage. Don't forget that is physical damage out with the Diabolic Edict, so Cuckoo can block a lot of it off with the reactive armor. And
Mid?
Carl, pretty low on mana. They want to go for the chase. Joe Cam off the mark with the shards, but is still going to be able to go after Zephyr, it looks like. Meld Strike's going to connect. Zephyr, he does get the Fairy Fire off an Alacrity. Won't really have another trap to throw out in time. So they do get everybody out of there. And T1 is really making sure that Alacrity gets nothing in terms of hero kills in this mid lane.
They're just holding back that Storm. They understand that the Storm is going to be greedy, needs to get off to a good start, and as long as you keep Alacrity in check, that can work in your favor. Well, Carl is rotating up early though, but not going to find that opportunity in IYD. And GXR, they've built up their own jungle quite big. Not just the triangle, but even the main jungle itself up top, and Alacrity's just kind of free to clear that out. So the flash farm's coming in for the TA. Still a ways off from getting his big items done, but you are happy at the progress Alacrity has. Treads are up. into the Dragonlance next. Once you hit those spikes with the Desolator down the line, the TA is going to feel really good at that point in the game.
Oh, absolutely. In your dream, he knows this as well on the left track, right? Like, even as the POS 1, Alacrity is the main carry here in this game number 2. In your dream, he's kind of the follow-up on the left track. But they are definitely going to give the stack priority over to Alacrity. And he's got a lot more to come. I mean, small cap, the whole triangle. He'll make his way over, start clearing those out. That'll allow him to get that early Dragonlance timing that we see so often on these TAs these days. Meanwhile, 23 Savage, someone who we haven't talked about in a bit. He's pretty behind, but this is pretty much the same kind of start you expect from a Terrorblade. They have a rough laning stage, they move into the jungle, and eventually they'll catch up. That's basically how this hero works right now. It's none the surprising that he is quite behind in net worth, but I don't expect it to last very long.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too long until he starts to build up. Getting some good space out. They're holding back on Mizu bot. Can't really leverage himself in tier 1, although...
Yeah, in your dreams here, they're going to have plenty of magic damage this time around to take down Cuckoo, and there's your snowball out. Chains is there, but in your dream was already waiting though. Knight's Fate's Edict from Whitemon may have saved the day, and it does. However, 23 Savage ends up dying. Alacrity just kills off the Terrorblade. Meanwhile, GXR, they're not done yet. They might just find Whitemon, but no, they don't check the proper tree line. He might just make it out as now on the backside. Zephyr, he's reinitiated onto In Your Dream, and they do get him. They do lose Zephyr as a trade, but it won't matter too much as now Whitemon, he's going to try and run with that Fate's Edict again and might just make it as the shards. They do lock him in, so they'll take out the Oracle. Cuckoo, he'll keep going after the DK, and he should be able to secure this kill. But no, it looks like he will run out of mana, and will leave him be. But in that meantime, 23 Savage, I'm not sure how he died, but he ended up going down to the TA.
Looked like a trap kill by the ramp. He might have just been farming really low, and the vision out. Trap was probably cooked up for a while, and Alacrity just cleans up. That's the one thing with the Terrorblade you gotta watch out for if you don't juggle your HP well. You can kind of get tricked like that. That's what we were expecting earlier with the Nyx in game 1. Didn't quite happen, but TA can kind of get that done as well with good traps out. And T1, they're starting to lag a bit behind. 2k lead for GXR. Alacrity and In Your Dream being top of farming. They've just got so much more efficiency in the jungle. In Your Dream clearing out multiple camps, stacking multiple camps if they need to. Triangle just being held by Alacrity, finally getting the D ward on the Ancient block. It's just much more that GXR can build up to, and they're starting to wrap around top for Savage again.
That they are. Big kill, and he's not going to be hard to take down, but Carl, he seems to expect this as he waits around, but how are you going to help him? Carl, he thought about it, but there's nothing he can do. They even held on to the disruption just in case he had help around.
Yeah, the funny thing is that In Your Dream was using his voice lines right before the rotation, so he was kind of preempting it, although...
So they found mid-river. Carl, he's going to get a Vortex off, but it's only to pick up the haste room. He can't really capitalize on anything quite yet, as now Polison going to get a disruption off. Joe Cam is there with the snowball follow-up, but he can't get it off in time. And he is in fact going to go up towards the neutral camp instead.
Yeah, just a bit too tight of a timing, and it goes back to that control issue for the Storm. Feels like they will rely on better setup from the Lesh or the DK to lock in Carl this game, and as long as he stays alive, you're kind of happy. You still don't feel good about Savage dying, but the Storm needs this Orchid first. Carl has to be the priority right now because he needs that control, he needs the damage, he needs the sustain the Orchid will give him, and as long as that's stalled out, your Storm's just going to be farming as much as the Terrorblade is. So T1 needs to kind of get that space opened up. No tier 1 tower trades, which is actually more beneficial for GXR, seeing as they are, again, working that jungle a lot better. I think T1 needs to break something down to really get some space going.
Oh, Mizu, he could be the target they're looking for as the Fortune's End is going to fly out. They should have plenty of control. The question is, do they have the damage? Finger is there, but it won't be thrown out yet as the disruption does fly out of Mizu. He's going to heal up thanks to the Oracle. The Purifying Flames weren't enough to burst Mizu down. In fact, it was nowhere near enough. And Mizu's just going to be perfectly fine. Yeah,
it's a big rotation bot from T1 to look for that kill. The response from GXR just equalizes that, and of course they can just go back jungling. I mean, Alacrity and In Your Dream are just left alone to farm up. Same thing goes for T1. And Carl's left alone, Savage is left alone. It's just not as fast. You're still seeing Savage lag behind Cuckoo, lag behind Mizu's farm on that Terrorblade, and Carl doesn't clear out the same way Leshrac and TA does. So if you keep playing this farm war game without any changes on map control, it's just gonna feel awkward.
They're gonna try onto Mizu this time with a 4th hero, and they will get him this time. And Carl joins the fray just to make sure. In fact, they're gonna go for a bit of the dive now. Cuckoo going right in, quite deep. Still wants to go with the Chakram. In the end, we'll decide against it, as it looks like they were just kind of low on spells to throw out. So they get Mizu on the DK. My only concern for T1 here is Alacrity is still freely farming on this TA. There is going to become a point where this TA is going to be ready to fight, and it's just going to be way too far ahead of net worth if this game keeps up like this.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need to do something about that on T1's end. GXR are already lining up for that mid push. It's not too long until this tower falls. The TP's happening out here from T1.
Disruptions there. They've got the big target. They've got 23 Savage in the Split Earth. No, the false promise. It is going to buy enough. Time for the Sunder to fly out as Alacrity. He's going to get Earth Spike, but again, he's fine. They don't really have the damage, nor a way to burn through the refraction charges. And I think they're still looking to try and commit into that mid-tier 1, but it looks like GXR, they are going to be patient. They've got more farming to do. There's just no rush for them.
Yeah, they know they're working this map a lot better. T1, with the Blink up on Zephyr, could start lining up more shots, though. Like, the Blink Hex might enable them to just keep Alacrity pinned down, or really keep anyone pinned down from GXR's end long enough to get those kills, and they're going to clump around. It looks like they're going to go for that smoke play soon.
Oh man, smoke up T1. Going into that triangle, Alacrity, he'll be a great target if they could take him down. It's not going to be that easy, especially while Polison's around, but they'll go for the Hex out, but there's your disruption, making sure he takes no damage in the middle of all this disable. Alacrity, though, can you get out now? He'll go after Zephyr instead of trying to run, and I suppose there was no way out, but now a nice snowball back the way of Zephyr, still buying more time as Alacrity. He should die, but no, the Purifying Flames, he's going to heal through it. The Chakram won't connect either. He is going to make it out. What a save from Jokam. There's now Carl. He will try to go after In Your Dream, but he's out of mana. Oh, they went too far. T1. They end up losing 3 for 1. It's just not worth. And GXR, they've got to be feeling good about that one.
Oh,
Cuckoo. He was dropping low, John. It's still a TA with a Deso up. They might go for the chase. The shards are there. Snowball is also up, but Jokam needs the vision. Look at the side blades. Just bouncing towards Cuckoo, but it won't be enough. Nevertheless, GXR now 5k ahead. It's 5-7. This draft, it's well and truly working out thus far.
Yeah, for T1's end, they need to jump these supports. You need to take Paulson out before really engaging
Carl, you've got to be careful, Carl. Snowball is going to chase him down, but he will zip back the other way. Traps are there. Shards going to be off the mark. That's all of his mana gone, and Carl might have to make a walk back to the fountain.
Yeah, and that opens up the bot push here from GXR. They can lock in the tier 1 just with In Your Dream, and they can keep hunting. They've got that blink on Mizu. He just wants to get the control, wants to find a nice easy hero to jump. They even have the blink for Jokam flying out on the Tusk. So you've got 2 big blink initiators on GXR's end. Even the blink save with a snowball here for GXR for positions right, and they don't have much to be scared of. Lead is up 6k with that bot tier 1 taken. In Your Dream, it's the beauty of Leshrac. You can just keep pushing. You can look for that tier 2 pressure, the immediate use of that fort. If they don't fortify, tower's gone.
That it is. And they will pop the glyph immediately, but they are going to pop the glyph on the other end as well. Trying to protect the creep wave and the siege creep more than likely, is, you know, the pings are out on that siege creep, and they're going for it. Glyph or no glyph, that tier 2 bottom tower is not going to last without a fight. Zephyr's the only one around in this line to try and defend this. They'll finally bring in Cuckoo on the timber. Is that going to be enough? It looks like it will be, at least for a second. GXR, they're still posturing, looking for a way into a team fight. But you want the supports first, the Whitemon. He got scouted out there for a second. Tier 2 bottom tower is gone now. More TP's in. Carl, he's got a double damage rune. Maybe you can fight this one out, but what a massive Earth Spike, Zephyr. He locks down 3 of them. Paulson and Jocam, they're already gone. And now maybe they can chase them down. Try to go for a big team fight, but Alacrity, he's not done yet. Back in onto Cuckoo. They want the timber, and they'll get the timber. Alacrity still gets a double kill regardless of that great initiation from Whitemon.
Under attack.
Yeah, it looked a bit shaky for GXR. They still find a tier 2 tower. They find a core and a support for their 2 supports. They maybe misplayed that initiation a bit. Mizu did blink up to clump in. And just gave that nice control. The Orchid reveal as well coming out from Carl pays off. And they find the right targets. They just don't have the follow-up. So I think that should give GXR the information now that they have to be a bit more cautious. They can't afford having the Shadow Demon and the Tusk right next to each other. You kind of need to split up so that you still have one save in the Snowball or Disruption available, no matter who gets jumped first.
Oh, Zephyr, he wanted to blink in and get the Hex off onto Mizu, but Mizu, nice quick reactions, does get himself out of there. Nice little item here for 23 Savage, though. He does have the Grove Bow up. So, Grove Bow, Dragonlance, it's going to be a lot of range during the Metamorphosis. But right now, he's got a lot more farming to do as mid lane. They have found out Alacrity. It's a big zip in, but Refraction is still there. They burn through it now with the Chakram, but Mizu is going to be around to help out. The Silence not enough. Split Earth is there as well. Cuckoo, he's dropping low. He'll chain away. Carl, he'll have to zip out of there, but the chase is on. In Your Dream's not done yet as Carl. He's on the cliff of all things, and they are going to find him. Can they? Do they realize? Oh, they do. In Your Dream, he'll take care of it himself. Zephyr is going to try and TP away. He's going to get disrupted. He's going to drop. And they even found Cuckoo across the other side of the map. Roshan time.
It's that power spike. They're just too strong to fight into T1. They clump up onto Alacrity, and again, if you don't catch the supports first, there's always going to be a form of save. There's always backup. Roshan does not last long with a physical output of the Edict and the Desolator TA. They've got the safety net of the Aegis now on Alacrity's end. They can start thinking about the high ground. They can start thinking about wiping out these tier 2 towers. Savage has managed to catch up on the Terrorblade, just lagging behind In Your Dream now. A much better spot for him. But he has been given basically this entire game to free farm. Like, he's been given all the space, all the time in the world. The investment has to start paying off. Still only has the SNY and Dragonlance. So the Scotty's still a ways off. The BKB's up for Alacrity. So that Orchid control, all the chain stuns, if Alacrity is quick enough in reacting, it's not even going to hold him down now.
Certainly not. 9k advantage for GXR. It's just massive. In Your Dream now has the full Bloodstone up. It's going to allow him to feel a lot more healthy walking across the map. It kind of goes back to this greedier draft here from T1. Like, you need so much more farm to be effective with this kind of draft. Whereas GXR, they don't really need much farm at all. They're just fine to run you down. It's a matter of if T1 can just keep holding out, though, right? Like, eventually this Terrorblade Storm is going to be a big problem. Can they ride through the storm that is GXR is the question. It looks like they're going to start slowly starting to set up in that mid-tier 2 tower now. And it's not going to take very long, assuming they have a creep wave around. Instead, GXR, they're going to pop a smoke now. Go down the bot lane. They'll try to go for a tier 3 tower of all things.
Yeah.
It's really not going to take long. They need to react really fast. Is that tier 3? It's gone. Carl, he'll zip in with the Orca, but Jocam's there with the Walrus Punch. Earth Spike is massive though. Zephyr, another 3-man, but the disruption is there to save the day's Cuckoo. Just barely about to drop, and does. The Purge will be enough. He does not have buyback on that Timber, which means GXR, they can keep going after this Rax. Carl, gonna zip through. Zip TP is gonna be the play. In fact, no, he didn't even TP. Carl's just walking the other way.
Yeah, it's on cooldown. It's not going to be able to be up there in the defense, and I think they just resigned as bots at Rax. They can't lose anymore. Tier 2 still stands mid and top. Carl has to be cautious. If he does get caught out, he's under a ward here.
Oh, the Courier as well. The Courier saw him there for a second. I guess they kind of gave the information to Carl, though, because he does zip away. But now you're 1 racks down, 21 minutes in. That bot lane just going to be consistently pushing in. And they're not done. They know how ahead they are. GXR, they'll just keep going through the mid lane now. I wonder if they go high ground again.
There's nothing stopping them. The team fight from T1, it's not amazing. A lot rides on Zephyr to get these big stuns off. And even then, the supports of GXR are playing very safe, sticking to the back line. So they're just not giving the opportunities for T1 to kind of just get in, burst down one of the saving supports, and they need to execute perfectly at it.
Cuckoo. Goodness me, be careful, Cuckoo. Carl gonna zip in, disruption is there. Vortex not gonna do anything. So it looks like GXR, they may have had enough now. They've already got 1 racks up, you don't want to throw a team fight away. So with this 12k net worth lead, it would be a lot of gold and XP going back to T1 if they could pull off a victory in this next team fight, and GXR, they are certainly not willing to give that opportunity away to them. That being said, you do still have the Aegis, so it is very tempting to just go back into that high ground.
Yeah, they've got the Aegis for about a minute more. They have to be cautious though. T1 are going for a bit of a smoke play, maybe trying to sneak up for that defense. They are fairly scattered. Savage has went back to farming, has a TP, but if GXR understands that they've got the numbers, they could easily shove in. Still, it looks like they'll just play it safe. No rush. I think they understand with this much map control, there's not as much space to catch up here.
Whitemon been caught out on the Oracle and he's gone. Very easy kill there for In Your Dream. As they're just going to go after that top tier 2 now. They won't have a creep wave for a little bit though. It's quite far away and Savage, he could just keep it pushed out with the TB illusions. Of course for T1. They're just going to try and play the avoid game and trust that 23 Savage, he can get to that point where he can start fighting back as this TB. Maybe once the Eye of Skadi's up, but it's still a while away. Now a TP in from Jokam, that top lane. He may know 23's around here somewhere and actually blinks right past him. Just hops right over his head, looks around with the shards. Illusion is going to maybe scan out Jokam. They still know he's there somewhere, but they're not going to find him in time.
Just the right amount of sneakiness coming out from Savage.
Look at that, John. DD Rude is there.
Oh boy. DD number 1 for Alacrity, at least at this point in the game. See how many he builds up as these runes spawn up. He is aware. And I'm sure if Cuckoo sees, he's going to have some words elsewhere. I mean, it's only up to this game, unfortunately, but yeah, it's going to be tough. Alacrity's damage output's way too high. T1, I just worry about their high ground. It's not amazing. It just all rides on Zephyr getting those big Earth spikes off. You're nowhere near the Ags on a Storm, and I don't think you can even rush it. This game, you need a BKB, you need a Sanj as well with your Kaya to feel tanky and able to actually jump in front lines. And GXR, they're smoked up. Next Roshan's still 2 minutes away. So they only really have that top tier 2 to play for, which is still constantly shoved out by T1. Like, they're holding onto that last outer tower really well. And GXR needs to sort of commit to that top lane if they want to get the map fully shut out. But maybe if they get the right rotation, they could catch out. There's a good ward here, though, from T1 watching that movement.
Carl gonna split push the top lane again. Just zip TP immediately. All T1 trying to get back into their own jungle. There is going to be a few GXR members around. In fact, they're going to bring Jokam in as well. Savage, got to be careful. Shards out. Jokam on target, but doesn't want to jump in. There's 5 heroes here from T1 as they zip in now with the Orcan up. And Mizu is there with the stun. Still, they burst down Jokam. In Your Dream. Looking to move in. Got to be very careful, but they do connect the split earth. Cuckoo.
Ooh.
He just gets blown up. They have the DD rune active on Alacrity. They blow up another. Waimon gets 2 shot. Mizu's in. They found the line support as well. Another split earth, and they will find a third.
Radiant structures are fortified. Dire structures are fortified.
Yeah, that's a bit of a yikes. They can still cut the creep waves with a storm, but oh, he got silenced, Carl.
Carl?
Carl.
Oh, Carl.
He got silenced midway in his zip. He just
Was that
zipped and
the the trap, the TA trap?
Yeah, he's got the ag shard up, so that silence is just busted when you don't expect it. Although
Mizu's copying a lot of damage here, but he's going to help around. They're still going to go in back in onto Cuckoo. That could be a dieback here on Cuckoo's. He's going to try and chain, but the last hit is going to make it Mizu. He gets the kill. A dieback on the Timber. GXR, however, it looks like they're going to back off and deal with that top wave. This mid lane is still quite annoying to push in here for GXR. They're going to try and at least take down that top tier 2 tower. And then maybe try for high ground after a Roshan. And speaking of the devil, Roshan is up.
Yeah, it was a fairly quick respawn coming out. GXR, they've got the damage, just take this one themselves. T1, they don't have vision. I mean, they've got that ward behind Roshan, but no one's really walking there. In Your Dream shows up for a bit, but they're too slow. Aegis up on In Your Dream, Cheese on Alacrity, Shard going the way of... Who did they hand it to? Did they... Is it Paulson? Yeah, they've got it on Jokam. So they've got the frozen sigil flying out at some point, and that's really obnoxious. You got the old Tusk skill, the slow is annoying, the ability to scout out a bit is also frustrating, so more tools for the high ground siege, and I think GXR at this point need to gun for that tier 2 top just to prevent any sort of safe areas for T1. They've been maximizing the top lane fairly well between Savage and Carl, so just completely take control here and you go from there. Unfortunately, not the double damage rune, illusion rune coming out for Alacrity, so still on a 1x DD, not quite on that big streak as before. We'll see if the game lasts long enough for him to get another, as T1 they're starting to run out of options. Like, Savage feels big with a Scotty up. It's not big enough. I think you really need the Storm to build up, although they find a lot of bounty runes left behind here.
4 bounty runes. Jeez. No worries. Easy. So, what can you do? You know, sometimes the game's just so hectic, you never go back to your own triangle. You leave a bunch of bounty runes laying around. Still, they'll move in onto that tier 3 top tower now. Mizu is there. He's got the stun off onto Zephyr. Shard's going to block him in. Carl going to be there to try and help out. He's going to be very cautious, though, as they do kill off Zephyr. He's going to buy back. Cuckoo, he's in now, but the trap stance is just so annoying to try and play into. Carl, he's going to get Polison, but the Ghost Scepter was there. Glimmercape as well. They might get him, but no, the snowball. Jokam, he saves the day in 23 Savage. He's down with that buyback gold. They'll lose Cuckoo as well this game. It looks like it is very, very over. And they call it 23 Savage. He's had enough. GXR, they get a 2-0 victory over T1. And what a dominant set of games here from GXR.
Oh, they play spectacularly well, especially in the second game. A lot cleaner coming out from GXR. T1, they went for such a greedy draft. They went for that Storm TB. They lost their towers very early on. Cuckoo could not buy the space out that he envisioned he would on that Timbersaw. So there was never enough going out to Savage and to Carl in this game. GXR, they just run this really fast draft, and the interesting part is we've seen them run this tri-core before, of TA, of the Lesh, of the DK off. They know the timings they have to hit. So I think T1 and all the teams in the group stage here will have to watch out if you give these cores away to GXR. They just know how to work the map. Like, they invade that bot jungle quick. They melted the bot tier 1. They melted the mid tier 1 and just constantly played on the offensive while Alacrity was farming, and T1 just couldn't get anything done under that pressure.
What an impressive performance. And John, for us and the viewers, it's not over yet. GXR, they're going to be up against SMG next. So they're back-to-back series here for GXR. A 2-0 victory over T1, already going to be feeling amazing for them. But let's see if they can do the same thing to SMG. Of course, we are going to head to a short 10-minute break, and right after that break, we'll be back with our next series of the night between SMG and GXR. We'll see you then.